Hey, welcome to the Driven Stone Podcast, a podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I almost started the intro music over again. That would have been bad.
Almost
Well,
nothing.
sort of. I love that song.
I've always loved that song.
Yeah. So I would be okay. You want to hear it again?
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, here we go.
Nothing wrong with it.
Okay, maybe not. Kyle, guess what it is today?
It is the day.
Of Wednesday?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, which means it's Drippin' Stone Day.
That's right.
So we are back again in the studio in the what are we calling this place? What was that?
A little piece of paper fell off.
Oh, okay.
This is the
Whiskey
cave.
Cave Lounge. Whiskey
Yeah. Lounge
cave. We're here together again,
Yes,
and we're gonna drink some stuff.
like we do.
We're gonna talk about some things,
Indeed.
and no, that's basically it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Obviously.
Okay.
That's why I came over.
So there is no bottle on the table right now.
Not yet.
Look at that.
We've got quite the
There
selection.
is a large selection here, but I've got a bottle for us. I think this fits well with our topic for today.
Okay.
In that it's a rarity.
Interesting.
I don't know if that fits with the topic now that I think about it and I say it out loud. Well,
what is that rarity?
I'm gonna grab. Wait, what? What's the bottle?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
But
grab
I think I know a way to do it.
it. Okay.
Because I saw a post today on one of the social media trends that was a picture of the distillery at Four Roses.
Okay.
They must be having some sort of a special release going out right now.
I think they are.
And I don't know if you saw any of the images when Jack Daniels was putting out those the special ones that they just did, those little mini, but they were like 134 proof.
Yeah, the Coy Hills, or not the Coy Hill, but it was something else like similar to it.
Something like that. And it's just these, it's just a line of cars as far as
miles,
you can see.
Right.
And it's the post that I saw was like, the end is near. Because look at what's happening at Four Roses today.
Right. Okay.
It was kind of like this, just apocalyptic type scene of this line of people trying to get in to get whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Well, that happens at a lot of local liquor stores when they know that they're going to get some sort of bottle release too.
Yeah.
It looks like the end of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a grocery store amid COVID and had to get toilet paper and had to fight some old ladies for stuff and push them to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it got brutal.
Well, they don't know who they're messing with.
That's right. They
Apparently.
do now, or they don't remember.
They're aware.
One of the two. Oh, too much. Sorry.
They don't remember because they're dead.
That's not what I meant. I meant because,
Because Nick killed them. Give me that toilet paper.
Anyway.
Anywho.
The table is empty because I'm going to grab this from the shelf. Look, do you see where my hand's going?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could go to this one.
Is this going to be themed to the new, not Dungeons and Dragons, but the Game of Thrones?
Oh.
I was going to say, we need to pull out one of those 26-sided die, and we're just going to roll it in whichever letter.
That's not
number,
a bad way to...
That's the bottle.
That's not a bad way to do it. No, I have one in mind, though.
Okay.
I could go to this one. This is for our patrons who get access to that first.
Yeah, that special stuff.
Right. I could go here, but we've already done this one.
Yep.
I could reach back here. Have we done this one?
No.
I don't think we have. No,
but we did it on a
tasting.
On a tasting.
Sure.
Yeah, never.
I'm
never
gonna reach.
featured it.
I'm gonna reach behind this one, and hopefully this whole whiskey shelf doesn't come crashing down. While I'm doing this, will you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Will you grab two Glencairns from that side? Yeah. Do that. All right. Here we go. Ooh.
He's still Jenga in his way. Yeah. Doc Swenson said, "No, pick me."
Got it. I felt like Indiana Jones.
Man, he done did it. Yeah, it did have a similar aesthetic to it.
I got the monkey off that weird shelf thing.
Now here comes the big ball to crush you.
This is a bottle.
It is a bottle.
It is a bottle. This is a bottle that friend of the show, Cameron. People remember Cameron from when we did our Pixar Soul episode.
Yeah.
Cameron from Florida Man on Florida Man. He actually picked this bottle up for me in Kentucky. Almost forgot the name of the state.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And what happened with this is Cameron picked it up and he's like, "Hey, do you want this?" I said, "Sure." He brought it back and then I totally forgot that he had it. He texted me like 6 months later. Like, "Hey, I still have your bottle. Do you want it?" I was like, Yeah,
still on it.
absolutely. And this is the FAE 01, the Maker's Mark, their wood finishing series.
Wow.
This is a pretty darn hard bottle to find now.
Yeah, that was a highly contested bottle to get your hands on.
It really
when it came out.
truly was. He found it in Kentucky. I don't know if he actually got it at the Maker's Mark Distillery. There in Versailles, I think. Or Loretto. Sorry, Loretto, Kentucky. Maybe it's Versailles. I don't know. Kentucky's the names.
It's Kentucky.
Yeah, right. Anyway, I got some
The bluegrass.
Exactly. I got some bottle words for you. This is the it's staves, so they're aging this on oak staves, and it's 10 virgin toasted American oak staves. This is their fruit forward expression with notes of tobacco and wood. So says the bottle. Here's some bottle words. Ready?
Yeah.
At Maker's Mark, our wood finishing series is a purposeful exploration to push the flavor boundaries of our classic bourbon in truly pioneering ways. For the 2021 release, we set out to create an expression to pay homage to our unique copper still design and celebrate our non-chill filtration process. This approach retains more of the fatty acid esters in our bourbon, resulting in bigger fruit notes and viscosity. Wow. We believe this process is so important to the overall taste of Maker's Mark that we created 2 expressions to pay tribute to this. The first release, the FAE 01, is fruit forward with more focus on barrel extractives. The second, the FAE 02, is texture focused to really highlight Maker's Mark mouthfeel. It's round and creamy mouth coating.
Ooh.
Enjoy. Distilled and finished and bottled by the Maker's Mark Distilling Inc.
Beautiful.
Yeah, anyway. So this is the FAE 01.
Fantastic.
Comes in at 110.6.
Solid.
55.3.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to open the bottle. Like, this is a legit fresh crack, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
What?
Okay, we're not going to be able to do it for a Fresh Crack Friday, but hey, we're
I
just
mean,
going to do it for a Fresh Crack Wednesday.
We could do a fresh crack Friday, just this.
Is
It's not
this
gonna,
thing?
huh?
This just what we're about to do right here?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be as like, fun as yours.
I mean, you've got to love the Maker's Mark aesthetic of the wax.
That was tough.
That's a lot of work, man. Some pretty thick wax. Don't let it beat you.
There we go.
Man, that was snug.
That
was in there.
that was kind of difficult to get out.
Well,
Can't even talk.
when did it come out?
2021. 2021. Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's been in the bottle a minute.
That synthetic cork has been in there for a while.
And it's like doesn't have any give to it at all. I don't know what's up with that.
I think that's an attribute.
Synthetic cork thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're solid. They don't give.
No, they don't.
I think they may always give a better pop.
I think you're
even
right.
once you've got it down.
Yeah,
because they're in there. Bro, those fresh bottle glugs, my guy.
You know, it would never be a Drip and Stone episode if I don't wear. It's a black shirt. It's always a black shirt, so you can never really tell. But you can hear it.
Lost in the wilderness.
You can
of your
smell
beard.
it, not hear it.
You'll know when you smell it.
What? Like, I can't. What is up with this cork? Yeah, I know. I saw that. What the fuck? It's equal now. I mean, legit, dude. Like, I can't. Okay, it's not just me.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, that is snug.
No joke.
You thought I was messing around just making a good video. I was not.
That thing was not wanting to come out.
Wow. All right. That synthetic cork is in there. That's a pretty picture. Look
Again,
at that.
I mentioned it, but like the aesthetic of the red wax, like it's iconic to Maker's Mark.
100%.
Like, Detling does the wax. Like the wax has become a pretty common thing. Doc Swenson's got it. I know Booker's does that.
Yeah.
But I think it originally attributes
to the makers.
From my knowledge, the makers made it iconic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That red wax, it's just
drips.
Pretty. Yeah.
It's nice.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, because I'm wearing half a glass, I'm just gonna roll it in the glass because I was a little heavy-handed on that pour.
Beautiful color.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at that. Look at that.
Really pretty color.
Really pretty. I would say like
amber.
Yeah, I was gonna say amber.
Golden amber.
Darker than like quintessential bourbon, but like just a hair darker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a shade or two darker.
That's beautiful.
It's been nowhere near my nose, but it's already in my nose.
It's all over the front of me, so I can't smell anything else.
Fair enough.
Like anyway, it's slightly embarrassing, but I'm willing to share this embarrassment with you.
Yeah, it's your thing.
Well, it's some people dab a little bit of aftershave. I just dump a bottle of bourbon.
Dribble a little bourbon on me. Don't get pulled over.
The same thing. Exactly. Whoa, on the nose, man. That is interesting.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
like really pretty.
Heavy on the wood.
Yeah,
like it's woody.
It's like a sweet wood, though.
It is. That's what I say. Like, it's not oak to me. And it's weird because I know this is heavy oak.
Right.
But it's like a sweet
10 virgin toasted American oak stave. So
you ever walked into...
Not charred, just toasted?
Toasted, yeah. You ever walked into like the woods after a rain?
Sure.
Like the woods, probably in Alabama.
Sure.
Not around here, because around here the woods just kind of get danky. Yeah. But like woods in Alabama, I'm thinking like my dad used to live in Virginia. Woods in Virginia, there's like this sweet smell that emanates from the wood for some reason. And that reminds me of that. Man, that is delicious. What was the proof again? 110.6. Yeah. You can get some of the proof on there.
For sure, but it doesn't like make my eyes water or like tickle my nose in any way. Like it's there. You can get it, but it's not aggressive.
It's like a friendly proof. I quite like that.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
I could nose that all day. Make that a candle, man.
I'm really trying to like pinpoint what that sweetness is. Like I get some vanilla, but there's something that's more.
And I do want to point out something I didn't even think about. We mentioned the cork here. Regular Makers is always a twisty.
Is it?
Yeah.
Getting a lot of corn now. Cream corn.
Now I'm getting like fruity and creamy vanilla. Like fruity notes and creamy vanilla. Like almost like one of those cowtail candies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I'm going in.
I'm almost getting like root beer float.
Woo. I could totally be convinced of that. And you said root beer float right as I took a sip, and like that's what I got. Like vanilla, like sarsaparilla with vanilla ice cream.
My goodness.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
Here's my complaint. I've had this bottle for quite some time, and I just opened it now. And that's my complaint.
Well.
Wow. It's
bittersweet because you still got a full bottle.
That's very true. That is fantastic.
Yeah. That is super good.
Okay. The oak definitely comes through on the palate.
Yep.
What I was just attributing to like sweet, like lumberyard is 100% oak on the palate. Definitely oak.
Man. That is so amazingly well balanced.
Yeah.
Of such a good sweet, maybe a tinge on the sweeter side. The bitter's there, but it never does become like the dominant thing. But
yeah, it is thick too. To me, like, I mean, just looking at the legs in this glass, like the viscosity of this thing is definitely up there. Like, wow, and the finish, it lingers, man.
Oh man,
wow,
it's like caramel sauce. Yeah. Like we went
caramel sauce.
We went to dinner the other night, and
wow,
we ate at this place that for dessert they gave you a pineapple bread pudding with a caramel drizzle.
That sounds delightful.
Over it, and big scoop of vanilla ice cream on top.
Yeah.
And once that ice cream kind of started melting and like mixing with the caramel sauce, you obviously like you've had the pudding, and so you just go in and get a big spoonful of that.
Yep.
That's what this is, man.
So after several sips, I could see where this becomes almost too much. Like there's a lot of elements going on here.
Yeah, flavors here are at a 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Maybe 13.
Well, again, we've well documented as well. You have to sip the bourbon, not inhale it.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't gulp it.
No. I mean, if you want to, but
like that's a lot. Like I know Maker's Mark does a lot of that.
What?
Of the staves?
Yeah,
stuff.
that's their thing, especially with their like store pick releases too.
Right.
Yeah.
They do a lot of those things where it's like individually. Like I see them all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why these FAE 01 and 02, why they were unique.
I think it was the first version that they did. Like that was the first stave aging versions that they did. I think that's why. I'm not certain about that, but I feel like
I've seen that though for a long time. Like the stave different things, because they've got like, they've got a whole line of those stave things.
Sure,
like
here, that's right.
In this bottle, there's 3 of this
yeah,
stave
yeah, yeah.
and 7 of this stave or
I
whatever.
don't know why then. Maybe it's
I wonder if it was just like a flavor profile thing. Like they tasted it and they were like, "Whoa, these are special.
Yeah.
Let's put these out uniquely."
I do know you can't find them anymore. I do know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a limited release.
Right.
So at this point in time, anything that's a limited release from a big name distillery, it's not going to last long. I reread the bottle and immediately realized what that weird sweetness was. That's the tobacco.
Oh.
It's that tobacco sweetness.
That makes
on
total
the nose.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
I
total
was
sense.
like, oh yeah, shit, that's exactly what that is. Incredibly interesting. Man, this is eye-opening.
Yeah.
Has it just been that long since we've had Maker's Mark?
I think it has. I mean, we did the 101 like forever ago. Yeah.
I remember last holiday season, there was a really cool collection. You got 3 bottles.
Right.
I think you got the cask strength.
Yeah.
You got a wood finishing series and maybe just a regular.
And I think
I don't know,
they're
but it was a
all
cool,
like
little-
375s, right? Or maybe even smaller than that.
Perhaps. No, I
Yeah.
think they were 375s. They,
Yeah,
they, were,
okay.
they were good size.
Yeah. I remember seeing that at a local liquor store.
Yeah.
Yep. And it wasn't expensive either. It was,
No, I know. It
kind
makes
of
me
a
think
good
this year. I hope they do it again.
Yeah. It was a good price.
I looked up the mash bill
Oh,
on the FAE 01.
it is a weeder, correct?
It is a weeder.
Okay.
I mean, that's a classic Maker's Mark.
Sure. Maker's Mark is a weeder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And I think we talked about that too. Like if you're looking for those unicorn kind of bottles, Maker's Mark is a decent, I mean, because we haven't had those, Maker's Mark is a decent, at least, something easily found.
Well,
A
and
weeder.
in the, I remember reading an article at one point in time of like in the 80s and 90s,
Right.
Maker's Mark definitely advertised themselves as we are the weeded bourbon.
For sure.
And kind of for a while, kind of
Were that niche, yeah.
Took that crown.
Even though you had companies like Buffalo Trace who were still producing, even back then.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
They were
they took it over and Maker's Mark kind of helped make bourbon what it is.
100% so. Yeah.
I also too completely forgot that Maker's Mark is a beam.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I totally forgot. Yeah, beam Suntory.
Yep.
The mash bill here for the FAE 01, 70% corn.
Ooh.
A
Oh.
lot of sweetness.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like the corny notes.
Yeah.
The corny notes coming
Yep,
through.
corny bits.
Yeah.
16% wheat,
Okay.
14% malted barley.
So, like, it is a weeder, obviously. It's got wheat. But it also has, like, what was the malted barley?
14. So 16 on the
Wow.
wheat, 14 on the malted barley.
So, I mean, those kind of, like, roasty, toasty notes that you're getting from this make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
When you're considering, I mean, okay, all the sweet to me comes from the corn. But the interesting notes come from the wheat and the MB there. Here's my thing, though. Every time we have a weeder, we both always get like dusty wheat field and like Honey Nut Cheerios. I don't get any of that.
Yeah, good point. I don't really get Honey Nut Cheerios.
No, which is weird because that's a prominent note of almost every weeder we've ever done.
I know. And you're saying it now. It's
No,
like,
you get it?
I get honey.
No,
I get some honey note, but I don't really get like the weedy cereal note.
And again, like dusty wheat field or like dusty barn, I always get. And like not, dusty barn like animal dusty barn, but like dusty barn, like hay bale dusty barn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just
got
I
a
don't,
little bit of that
yeah.
funky dew on it. And I don't mean
Funky dew?
urine.
Okay.
That's that funky
That's
dew.
not where I was going.
That's that funky dew on that.
Urine is where you go?
Somebody pissed on it. Like a horse done pissed on that pile of hay over there. Okay. Woo! That got that funky dew on it.
Okay. I'm with you now. That's quite delicious.
Yeah, this is turning me, man,
To what?
into a huge Maker's Mark.
Oh, you know what? Like, I think Maker's Mark has always been, at least for me, one of those bourbons, like, it's everywhere. I can find it everywhere. So I'm never like, I need it.
Right.
And yet, every time I have it, especially their higher proof expressions or their interesting expressions like the FAE 01 here, every time I have it, I'm like, why do I not have more of this? Like, this is great stuff.
It's the cool thing about whiskey, and it's the sad thing about whiskey.
Explain.
It's so cool that you can come back to such a big name brand. Like,
Right.
The last bottle that I owned of Maker's Mark was 2 years ago?
Right.
3
Right.
years ago? It's probably 3 years ago. I had a bottle of the Maker's Mark, the 46.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a long time ago. Like, to
Yeah.
the point that, like, we didn't even feature it on the podcast because, like, it was gone before we were kind of doing things.
Sure.
And so it's literally probably been that long since I've really, like, I mean, obviously, like we said, we did the 101.
Yep.
These are great.
It really, truly is.
Man.
All right. Now that we've got a fantastic drink,
Indeed.
we want to talk about this week.
I've seen a lot of videos recently that have like come into my feeds on the social medias that there's a lot of similar content that's kind of discussing the kind of projected state of our current society,
The end
micro and macro.
end of civilization, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been talking a little bit about this off the pod.
Yeah, it's videos that are kind of talking about like how societies come in waves.
Absolutely.
There's a cyclical orientation,
Sure.
if you will.
A kind of a bell curve to some of these societies.
A bell curve, but like they repeat themselves.
Absolutely.
Somebody comes into the height, and then
Sure.
eventually that height has to come down.
Yep.
And you can look at society as a whole in terms of, there were great civilizations in the past, and
Absolutely.
why did they not continue to? Why don't we all speak Roman today?
Correct.
Because the Roman Empire fell.
Latin.
Roman.
I didn't mean to correct you, but
It's a Latin base. Why didn't they have the same? Oh, I guess that's Greek. Sorry, I was thinking,
sorry, buddy.
I was thinking in terms of.
I'm trying to help.
I was thinking in terms of like the gods. They were the Roman gods, but then they were the Greek gods, not the Latin gods.
They're the Greek gods first, and then they were the Roman gods.
Correct.
I don't mean to be that guy.
You are that guy.
Well,
Own it.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know all the Dreppet Stoners, and they're gonna write in, and they're gonna be like, Kyle doesn't know his shit.
Are they?
No. No. They're gonna be like, actually,
Do
good.
they
That makes-
now?
yeah.
Is that what they do?
No, they don't hardly correct us ever at all.
I'm gonna start curbing my tongue.
No, they're such good people, Kyle. They really never correct us. We're wrong a lot, but they never really correct us.
I know.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah. Well,
But yes, why do we not all speak Latin at this point in time?
because
I mean, we
Rome
kind
fell.
of do because
Well, I mean, Latin age, sure.
influential,
Right.
But because the Roman Empire fell. We
Right.
don't live under that reign.
Right.
So it's odd that I've seen so many videos there. I've seen at least
There's been a lot.
5 or 6 at
Yeah.
this point that are like kind of dealing with this topic of, is our society heading in a incline? Are
Yeah.
we getting, are we improving things, or are we on the decline and there's a reckoning coming?
Sure. Okay. To be fair, there's always this kind of ebb and flow. It's popular media. People are obsessed with the end of something. Now, I want to be clear. These videos, and we'll link to a couple of these videos in the show notes.
Oh yeah, they're super fun. To
Oh
watch.
yeah, they're really good. Like primarily, there are 3 that I find to
That
be
are
the
well
most.
done
Oh yeah, to be the
and
most
very-
interesting, for sure.
very informative.
Sure. There's this Australian dude who's super informative. There's a Kurzgesagt video, which it just came out in terms of when we're recording, maybe a week ago. And then there's this other video where a guy's talking about a book that he wrote, and it's on the end of civilizations.
Right.
This is not necessarily the end of the world.
Yeah, no.
It's the end of.
Well, not all of them are that. Some of
Right,
them are.
right. Some of them are like
Not like
doomsday.
the apocalyptic.
Correct.
The meteor's about to hit kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, more so just in terms of
Like our global, like this is how we function right now. What happens as that breaks down?
right.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so all of this really stems from a study done by MIT. That MIT. Did you just see me push my glasses up?
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
My bad.
That MIT.
Right.
Done in the
Tony Stark, big MIT fan.
Was he MIT?
I don't know if he went to MIT, but he references MIT a lot.
Sure.
Like, he goes to MIT to give that speech.
Oh, that's true.
about
Yeah.
The, barf.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At MIT.
So MIT did this study back in the early 70s. Like I think they actually started it in the late 60s,
Right.
but it really was published or it really came to fruition in the early 70s.
Right.
And it was basically like running a simulation
Right.
as to what would happen to our American and then also global society if we were on the projected path that we had set in the late 60s, early 70s.
Right. When would our concept of civilization fall?
Correct. And I know that like it was American centric just because America
At that point in time.
exactly was kind of the world power.
Right.
And it's debatable depending on where you are as to how that is functioning now.
Yeah, one video specifically talks about which societies currency
Correct.
is the dominant currency
Right.
for the time period.
Correct.
And that kind of helps like frame it really
Yeah, and in that society, the I forget what that term is called, like when you are the currency by which all other currencies are measured.
Right.
But America currently still is and has been for quite some time, at least the last, let's say, 70, maybe
70 years,
100 years, somewhere in that range. Sure. Like
post World War II.
Post World War II. Sure. So last 70 or so years.
Yeah.
And America has been that and has been on an upward trajectory. So MIT did this study in the early 70s, late 60s about like what would happen if what we're doing now continues. And essentially, they came up with, they ran a bunch of different iterations of the same scenario.
Right.
And they ran it for like, I'm going to throw a number out. It's not an exact number, but let's say they ran 100 different scenarios. I actually think it was more than that.
They did the Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I've looked at
100
14 million possible outcomes.
They did in as many iterations as they could come up with. And basically all these iterations pointed to one date.
Yeah.
2040.
Yeah, that was the consensus.
Correct.
Yeah.
That civilization as we know it will end for us in 18 years.
Right. They brought in a ridiculous amount of factors.
Absolutely. Like so many variables.
Yeah, economy and life expectancy, like a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, they're at the time the room-sized computers, calculated all this stuff up and
On their dot matrix printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MS DOS,
Beautiful.
yeah, getting all that stuff
For sure.
calculated down, and it was the date was like the early 1940s.
Yeah. 2040s.
Sorry, 2040s.
Yeah. And it was like consistent across nearly every version. When they changed, this variable,
Right.
that's still about 2040. When you
Yeah.
change this variable, that's still about 2040.
Right. Pollution.
Correct. I think they did like global warming. I mean, like you said, they did innumerable variables, as many as they could come up with anyway.
Right.
And it's interesting that like that year kept coming up. And this one video I saw talked about like that's actually ever since then, for the last 50 or so years,
Right.
has slowly actually been moving incrementally closer.
Yeah.
So it's not 2040 anymore.
Yeah.
It's more like 2035 or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
We're
We're on a faster pace.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So like I find it incredibly interesting in that overall the individual,
Mm-hmm.
their life is getting and has gotten progressively better. Now, to be fair, that's not true for everyone in every situation. But within the last, let's call it,
I think you could generally state that any general person today,
Sure.
compared to that same situation 60 years ago,
right,
you're in a better spot.
correct.
Like one of the videos, I'm not sure which one, but one of them talked about where the guy made the comment of like, I would rather be a middle class to
It's the
lower
Australian guy.
class
Australian guy.
citizen today
Yep.
than a king from 100 years prior.
Yeah, he talks about like, given a scenario, would I rather live in I think he says would I rather live in a low rent apartment?
Right.
Or would I rather live in a 15th century palace?
Yeah, the Palace of Versailles.
Yeah, give me the low rent apartment every
all day
day.
long. Yeah.
All day long.
I've got plumbing. I've got electricity.
I got a refrigerator.
Yeah.
I got food that's not going to give me every disease possible.
Yeah, I've got running water.
Exactly.
Yeah, give me that.
Every day.
Yeah.
And that same person makes the argument that like we are living in the most peaceful time of all of human civilization. And we've talked about this before, like, yeah, like statistically that is true. Despite popular media, despite you flip on the news and like it's all hell in a handbasket,
Right.
we are absolutely living in the most peaceful time.
Right. We highlight those discrepancies where it's like,
Sure.
no, look at how bad this thing is.
Yep.
And we blow that out of proportion.
Yeah.
But like overall, we're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, and that's a good point too of like, sure, on a micro level, it's very easy to say like, well, now this situation still sucks.
Right.
Because the world, things still suck in the world. We can all agree to that.
Yeah.
But like when you
Hands
take
Hands down.
Yeah. When you take larger time perspectives into play or factor those in, and when you take like larger statistical data into effect, like, yeah, we are living in a peaceful time,
Right.
even amidst like all the relative turmoil that's going on too.
Right. Yeah. You look at disease and life expectancy, and when you really put all those things together and look at
Absolutely.
it, stand back from it and look at it,
Yeah.
like, oh wow, we're
doing pretty well.
doing pretty well.
Which I find incredibly interesting. We're doing very well, and yet, based on that statistical data, we're 18 years from the end of civilization as we know it.
Right.
And what the Kierkegaard video kind of remarks on is this idea that every civilization, so like you think about the Byzantine Empire, you think about the Roman Empire, you think about all
Mayans.
the Mayans, these different
Aztec.
Chinese dynasties,
Right.
things like that. Like they all have a shelf life of somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300-ish years.
Right.
You think about the global society as we are right now, we're starting to push that. I mean, I guess you can trace this back to kind of British imperialism
Sure.
as becoming part of that global society. You have a group of people who are really trading globally. That's where it
Right.
started.
Yeah.
You think about like the maybe late 1600s, early 1700s, the height of it being somewhere in the 1800s. Like that's where you really have a global economy established.
Yeah, as the beginning of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But now you have entire economies that cannot exist without other economies.
Right.
The American,
They're all intertwined.
absolutely, the American economy cannot, like legitimately cannot exist without the Chinese economy.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot exist without, the if you want to call it
if
the EU
one-
economy.
Yeah, if one tanks, they all tank.
Yeah, and we see that currently right now.
Right.
Like, everyone complains about supply chain issues currently. Well, supply chain issues are not an end user issue. It's a global economy issue.
Right.
It's sure, I want to buy a new laptop, but I can't buy a new laptop because I'm waiting for chips to be manufactured, but the manufacturing can't happen until the mining happens, and the mining can't happen because this happens.
Right.
Everything is linked. Whereas like, the Roman Empire, it was relatively, obviously it took up a huge space, but it was distinct within itself.
Right.
So like there wasn't a whole lot of, the Romans weren't reliant upon
Dependent
the
upon, yeah.
Aztecs or the Mayans or anything like that.
Right.
They weren't reliant upon those people. They were
Right.
reliant upon themselves. But now we're all reliant upon one another.
Right.
When you think about it in that respect, like it's a little scarier, and you can see that why 2040 is the year.
Right. And to me, it highlights the concept that I'm still so just personally amazed by the importance of borders. Of
okay.
that, like, no, we are this.
Correct. Okay.
And, like you're saying, like, if you take it all out and you just want to rely on you're screwed.
Yeah, no, you're
It
right.
doesn't work that way
No.
anymore. Like, look at Europe, and, they're trying to give the finger to Russia.
Well, okay, like
Like Germany, we get all of our oil from Russia. Yeah, we don't like what you're doing to Ukraine, but we really like your oil.
right.
And we'd really like for you to continue to give us that.
Sure.
And if you decide to stop giving us that, holy fuck, we're screwed.
Right.
It's such a
I would say that obviously we're based here in America, and most Americans probably want that like USA made thing.
right.
But most Americans also aren't willing to pay
Yeah.
what that USA made thing is going to cost because of like there's a lot of other issues that are going on, a lot
Right.
of like macroeconomic issues.
Right.
For sure.
Because
like,
we won't force people to make our stuff for really cheap, like other countries will. So we'd rather that other country make that thing so that we can pay really cheaply for it.
correct.
But that's the reality,
Yeah. No, you're right. And so like we are to say that we're not reliant upon the global economy is just simply false. Like,
Right.
sure, a lot of America produces corn. Well, a lot of Russia produces wheat. And
Right.
a lot of Canada produces rye.
Right.
And you mix those three things together and they make good whiskey.
Some good shit.
Yeah. So like, and I know that that's an example, but there it is.
Right.
So you can't think of that. Like, so how many precious metals come from Middle Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa?
Right.
A lot of precious metals do.
Right.
So to say that we're not reliant upon as a not just us here in America, but us as a global perspective, that we're not reliant upon those, it's just patently false. We are.
Right.
I mean, the phones in our pockets are
Well,
created with all of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, well, it's just because, like, we discovered the value in those things.
Sure.
That those countries didn't realize there was a value to it. And now they're becoming real, they
Aware,
understand now.
right.
Yeah, they're completely aware now of like, oh crap, that's actually a really valuable thing.
Right.
Y'all owe us a lot for this. Like,
Sure.
y'all got a way better deal than you
Which
should have.
also relates to what these videos are talking about in terms of like part of this global collapse is also spurned by infighting and fighting both within and without.
Right.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news here lately, Kyle. There's a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
Like,
especially on the home front here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously there are still like legitimate wars going on. Like there are still like that kind of fighting.
Right.
And I don't want to minimize that. But there is fighting on a level that is completely different.
Right.
Obviously we have a lot of listeners outside of America, and we have a lot of listeners in the UK. And if you're a listener in the UK, we don't have to tell you all the interesting things going on.
Oh, yeah, you're aware.
Yeah, you're well aware. You're also well aware of all the interesting things going on in America. So too are Americans. Like there's a lot of infighting in America. And I don't necessarily want to get into that, but that's part of what these videos talk about is like these huge rifts within, I guess local cultures or individual kind of state,
but it
national cultures.
Spreads out nationally
For
like,
sure.
I think the interesting thing of like us being people that grew up in a generation, we grew up. I consider myself a child of the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s.
Me too.
Same. So to consider what we looked at as America,
Right.
From that time period and see how that has evolved and changed and the different understanding that we have about that identification now
Absolutely.
is so bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
And so like to watch these videos that are talking about the ebb and flow of societies and things like that definitely gives
lived
you, you get it.
Yeah.
I understand that take.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
fully.
So much so that like it's not out of the realm of possibility where, people our age are like, I don't know if America is the greatest country on earth.
Right.
Whereas maybe, parents' generation, there would have been no doubt in their mind.
Yeah, no.
Definitely grandparents'
in the
generation.
80s, like there was no question about that. Like, absolutely.
And that obviously, we recognize that that's the American perspective for sure. And that's not, I don't want to say that's nationalism or that kind of thing, but there's this like America was
that's just how it was presented.
For sure. And maybe it's presented just to us because obviously we're American.
Absolutely. I would put it that way.
But I think it's like now there's some uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it too was just, especially like in that time period, Hollywood
sure
and stuff like that was so predominantly American.
Correct.
To live in a world now where it's like, no, you can go and watch, cinema from all over the world.
Right. Well, and I read this thing. It was like America's greatest export has nothing to do with an actual good. It's our culture.
Right.
And now American culture has so pervaded everything else that now a lot of Americans are gravitating.
Like a sponge.
Yeah.
It's all starting to come.
Sure. And a lot of Americans are now like looking elsewhere. I mean, that's the reason why K-pop and anime is so huge, because people are looking outside with great reason.
Yeah, because it's good.
Because it's good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting and it's new. But that is also part of all of this like global economy aspect.
Absolutely.
A global culture, global, what was the other word?
Global society.
Thank you, society.
Yeah.
That word, that global society, where now we're interested in those things. It's not just, that kind of old version of America first. Now it's like, what else is out there?
Well, and I can't help but like draw in, my understanding of science fiction. And I think about the world that is presented in Star Trek.
Sure.
Especially like the idea of like, oh yeah, no, we don't even have currency anymore on Earth in Star Trek lore.
Right.
Like, we dissolved borders because we understand that this is a global community.
Absolutely.
Like we all are living this, this beautiful thing together.
This utopian
so
kind of.
we can all work together. There doesn't need to be these, awful interactions with each other.
Right. That's what all of these videos we're talking about also kind of point to. Like we're thinking about the end of civilization, which obviously can be a horrific and hellscape of a thing.
Right.
And I don't want to say that it can't be, but it also can be this just dramatic shift if we all choose collectively to work together.
And we live in a time period where that's possible.
Absolutely.
Like, again, growing up in the 80s, I had no understanding of what do people in Australia do? What do
Correct.
people in China do?
Correct.
What do people in Afghanistan do? Like, I didn't have the capacity. I only knew my experience in my small little town and what brief understanding of the rest of the world that I got from the news, which was very minimal.
Yep.
Everything was so centric to
where you were,
where I
local.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have now developed into a culture that is legitimately worldwide.
Right.
We live in a very unique time period, so that I don't know that those patterns of the past will 1000% be relevant.
Well, and you talked about like physical borders earlier. There's also that, like, let's say like language borders or language barriers. Now those are kind of minimized too, because I can open an app on my phone and I can scan. I could walk up to a menu in Vietnam. I don't speak Vietnamese at all.
Right.
I could walk up to a menu in Vietnam, scan with my phone, and at the very least turn my phone around and point to the thing that I'm interested in.
Right.
Like, I want to try these things. I could go one step further. I could speak into my phone. I would like to try this and this and this. And an app will translate that into Vietnamese with relative ease. And I could get the thing that I'm searching for.
Right.
And I don't have to learn a lick of Vietnamese.
Right. I mean, you think back to like the Pilgrims and the Indians and like how difficult that must have been, but they did it.
Sure.
They got through it. And like we have these
depending on which side you're looking at, I guess.
I mean, for sure. But like, I'm just saying, in terms of, what we have available to us.
Correct.
Certainly we should be able to
and
overcome.
And I think that's your point. Like, the fact, I think the larger perspective for this date is it would be easy to look at it and go, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
when you look at the data,
we're just done.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part is we can choose to change that.
Yeah. The beautiful part is that we can see the data.
Correct.
They couldn't see the data back then.
Correct. Like the
but
Romans
now
didn't
we
know
can
that.
see that. Oh, there's a pattern to this.
Absolutely.
We better steer clear.
Correct.
We need to course correct.
Course correct here.
Yeah.
That to me is the most beautiful aspect of all this, and also the most frightening.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, we all know this thing is going to happen. It could happen 2040. It could happen, 2238. Who knows?
Right.
But we have the ability to control this, and yet, like, the fights that are happening, the conversation that is happening is not really centered around that. It's around this, not just here in America, but everywhere. It's around these things that are like, that's what we're fighting about, when we could be thinking about the larger macro perspective of this culture, this global culture, this global society.
Yeah, I know. Like, you rarely ever see it, and and that's like I suppose our own fault. But like you see, like, China's going through this like really like ridiculous drought right now,
right?
But it's not getting a lot of coverage. It's not something you really see a lot of. Where and then in Pakistan, there's these floods that are killing like thousands of people.
Right.
Again, it's not our problem. We don't have to worry about it. But man, that's
a perspective, sure.
Yeah, but what if we lived in a society where we did care?
Absolutely.
Like, what can we do to help?
I mean, even from an American perspective, like, there are droughts in California, and I mean, you just look up Lake Mead in Las Vegas or outside of Las Vegas, there's a problem there. And yet most Americans are like, oh, that's a problem for Las Vegas or Nevada.
Right. Yeah.
That's not
Hope
our
y'all
problem.
figure that out.
Yeah. Good luck, y'all.
Yeah.
And this is America. So like, when you think about that perspective, like, the country can't work to solve this problem. Like, and then like, I legit, my youngest was doing a test today that I had to, assist her with. And one of the questions was, it included a quote, and forgive me for not remembering the attribution to the quote, but more or less it said that if men were angels, there would be no need for government. Wow.
And if the governing were angels, there would be no need to question it.
Wow. Okay.
but we don't have that. And so we are left to now then trust that we are being governed fairly, but also have the responsibility to question that government.
100% so.
And that was, from the 1700s.
Right.
That was like
some philosopher
pre-Declaration of Independence kind of stuff.
Sure.
But like to read that now, it's like, that's the thing.
Right. We
have to, it's so important to put the people that are in power that they have an understanding of that. But at the same time, I have zero expectations that is the case.
Yeah, and I don't think that's an us America issue. That's an everywhere issue.
In any situation.
Yeah.
I just don't think that like once it's the Spider-Man thing of
great power, great responsibility.
Yeah,
and
you just hope you got the right.
And a lot of people within that confines or
once you get that power, it's hard to.
For sure.
Take responsibility for it.
Across everything.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
This buddy might be our most politically leaning thing we've ever done.
Because it's not a political thing. It's not I lean this way or that way. And it's just, I try so hard to like think about those things just in terms
from
of
as many
humanity.
Perspectives. 100% so.
Like we've got to take care of each other.
That's the opportunity we've been given. And I hope that collectively we look at that.
Yeah.
And we say like, I mean, you don't have to look very far back. Just look back to let's say May of 2020 when like the proverbial shit hit the fan and it's spreading everywhere.
Right.
And we had such an opportunity to fix a lot of issues and we didn't take it.
Yeah.
And like 2 years removed from that, we have a lot of opportunity to fix a lot of issues and we haven't done it. And that's why I'm like, man, 2040 seems so likely.
Yeah.
And I'm worried.
I look at that specific kind of a thing of there was one video that talks about how when a rising culture is on the rise, they have the motivation to coalesce.
Sure.
Because hey, we're on the rise. Like we're hot shit.
Right.
Like if we just kind of work together, we can achieve greatness.
100%.
And you saw America do that through World War I, World War II. Like we're hot shit. But once you're at the top, and once you are the pinnacle, it becomes so much more difficult to get everybody to deal in the same with the same focus.
Because those generations have moved on. They're no longer the ones who are kind of guiding everything. And you're right. Like to maintain that, you're at the pinnacle, and maintaining that pinnacle is really difficult.
Right. But then you get to the thing where like, okay, now there is an obstacle presented.
Right.
And you get several ideas of how can we attack that obstacle. And there's never a coalition that everybody comes together and says, this is the way that we're going to approach this. So we're all going to work together as a society to accomplish this goal.
Right.
Because at this point, there's no longer this national pride.
Well, you look back to
we have these different fronts.
Sure.
And I was like, this is, I think, the way that we're going to approach it, which is completely opposed to this other concept that thinks we should do it this way. And so now we're just at a
standstill.
At a standstill.
Yeah,
so we're just not going to accomplish anything.
You got kind of a stalemate kind of thing because no one can agree on anything.
Right.
So
you're at the Zax.
Yeah. The Zax?
The Zax.
Like Zaxby's?
No.
Oh.
The
I could go for some Zaxby's right now.
What's that dude's?
Chicken Zingers?
No.
Oh.
Green Eggs and Ham.
Oh. Dr. Seuss?
There you go. No, the Zax, the Dr. Seuss story of, we come to a standstill. All right, well, you need to move out of my way because I'm moving forward.
Oh, right.
No, you need to move out of my way because I'm moving forward.
Right.
Well, if neither one of us moves, then we just don't ever accomplish anything. Then we're just stuck here.
That's a good place to end.
Bummer.
On a bummer.
Yeah, on a hard bummer.
Yeah. Well,
I do not have anything else.
My glass is empty.
Yeah, remedy that.
Huh?
We could remedy that.
Oh, for sure we can. We're going to hit stop on this recording machine and, we can continue.
We can fix this.
Sure. And you know where the conversation continues?
On Patreon?
On Patreon.
I knew
Absolutely. You knew I was going there. Yeah. Well, we want to know what you think about the FAE 01 or, you know what, just Maker's Mark in general.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that like Maker's Mark is their drink.
For sure.
So I kind of feel almost embarrassed at this point.
That we haven't done more of it?
This has been this good.
Oh, right.
And I wasn't aware of it.
I mean, you were aware, but
Sure. I just guess I wasn't a believer. Because, like, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about buying the cask strength and
just
haven't.
haven't.
Never have I seen FAE 01, or I would have.
Right.
Because, like, that's been a very popular bottle.
Sure.
But, yeah, no. That cask strength's probably going to be my next purchase.
Yeah, and rightly so. We also want to know, what do you think about this MIT data of 2040? Like, what are your thoughts on the global society as a whole?
Yeah. Are you prepared for that zombie apocalypse? Are you canning some food and building that bunker? Let me know.
You and all the doomsday preppers.
Yeah.
That was an interesting show.
Indeed.
Well, you can get in touch with us through email. It's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always one word, Drep and Stone, DREP and Stone. Come and find us, like us, share some comments. You know, we're all in this together.
For sure. And you can support Drep and Stone through our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Drep and Stone. We got a lot of awesome things going on there.
Lots of good videos there.
Tell the people, what are we doing?
We've got a little series that we do called Just a Thought,
Ooh.
where we just kind of share thoughts together.
We reply to those occasionally.
Yeah, we respond to them. We do Just a Pour
Ooh.
with either Drep or Stone,
Yeah.
sometimes and Stone.
Occasionally.
When we can get that working. Lots of good stuff on there.
Yeah, good episode notes and some picks.
Yeah.
Fresh Crack Friday.
Fresh Crack Fridays, tonight's pour.
Yeah.
You know, it helps us all stay connected and, you know,
Build
driving home that society of togetherness
building
that we're
that
trying
community,
to do.
100%. I like that. That's good. You can also support Drep and Stone by rating this podcast wherever it is you find great podcasts like this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can you stick that thumb up? Be sure you do it. Find a place and put it there.
And you finally can support the podcast by telling someone about Drep and Stone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell a friend, share a post, however you can kind of connect us. You know, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. A lot of bottles to move out of the way here, Kyle. It's becoming really, Carol.
Hey, Carol. Tell your mom I said hey. Thanks for liking our videos. I ain't moved.
Those people on the podcast, they don't get to see that.
This is where the magic happens.
Right.
This is the real fun shit.
Right. And that's why we release this to Patreon first.
Right.
Yeah. Always. Because you guys get to see all the cool shit. All right.
On this episode.
As it grows.
Motherfucker, I am a Latin scholar.
It's a lot of heavy editing on this episode already. That was not in my head, correct?
No, I heard that.
That was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was definitely like, you know, ghosty. Yeah, join our fans only page.
That's not how that works.
No?
Fans only.
Lots of hot content.
What are you doing? Oh, you posting that Patreon. Got to post that Patreon. I had some coffee, Kyle.